So, welcome and thank you for joining this latest episode of the Uplink, Simple Asset Tracking with Digital Matter. My name is Gemmell, and I'm responsible for product marketing and management for B2B solutions. This is my third year at Helium, and with me today, I have a couple special guests from Digital Matter, Matthew and Sean. Guys, why don't you introduce yourself?
Thanks, Dal. Hi, everyone. My name is Matthew Hofmeyr. I am the VP of Sales for Digital Matter for our North American region. I've been with the company for just shy of 4 years, and I moved here from South Africa, from our South African office to Atlanta in July of 2017 with my wife and daughter to open up our office here. So we're fairly new to the US, trying to make as much noise in the industry as we can through partnerships with Helium like this. With me, I got Sean.
Hi, everyone. My name's Sean. I've been with Digital Matter for coming up on 2 years now. I do technical support for the America region. So I help onboard new resellers and maintain their devices and just oversee any technical support they have.
Thanks, guys. So here's what we're going to cover today. We just went through the intros. I'm going to share some information about the Helium network. We did a really cool report last year, and what I'll do is I'll share some of those key findings. After that, I will stop talking and I will hand it over to Matthew and Sean, and they're going to share some information about Digital Matter solutions. They're also going to do a live demo and show how you can connect one of their trackers to the Helium console and see where that tracker is on their Telematics Guru visualization tool. And after that, we will open up for questions and answers. Now, you don't need to wait until the end. If you do have some questions, feel free to put them in the chat, but we will hold off answering until after we're done. Another piece of housekeeping, we are recording this episode, and later we will upload it to our YouTube channel. And actually, that channel has all of our Uplink episodes, so if you missed some previous ones, you can go there and get caught up. All right. So just quickly about Helium. Helium was actually founded in 2013. And what the founders discovered was there was a massive opportunity to make it very simple to connect devices or sensors to the internet. They came from a software background, and they were used to being able to quickly build applications and make them do what they wanted. This was not the case with the IoT back in 2013, and some would argue even today. And so they had this mission to how do you make it much easier to connect these devices with decentralized wireless networks. Fortunate for us, we have some very reputable VCs who share in the vision, including folks like Coastal Ventures, FirstMark, Google Ventures, and then more recently, Multicoin Capital and Union Square Ventures. So what the founders identified then, and some would argue still very much the case now, is there is a gap between the existing network infrastructure that's available today and the requirements of these sensors and devices. So smartphones, computers, that challenge has been solved, but for smaller devices that need to just send out very small amounts of data, such as temperature, humidity, location, as I mentioned before, there's still a really big gap. And these devices are demanding certain functionality, like being able to run for years on battery, being able to fit into a very small form factor, do things like asset tracking without cellular, run on networks where you've got miles of range, making sure that the core technologies are open source and using open standards, and then of course, making sure that everything is very secure. So if you think about this problem of creating a purpose-built network for these type of devices, it's a very interesting challenge. And as I mentioned before, for smartphones and computers, that we've already solved that one. But if you were to take the same approach for these small devices, such as building a bunch of infrastructure, deploying a bunch of towers, that would take a very long time and it would be very expensive. And what you'd end up with is a business model that looks very much like what we see with telcos, because you would, as a company, you would need to recoup that investment and all that capital that you have spent. We came up with a very different approach. We're calling it the world's first peer-to-peer wireless network. And the thinking was, what if you took a different approach to building networks? An analogy that we like to sometimes use is Airbnb. So Airbnb, they are the largest accommodations provider in the world, but there are no Airbnb branded hotels. And instead of trying to compete head-to-head with Hilton, Hyatt, or Marriott, they were able to build a community to provide these accommodations or shared spaces. And so what the approach that we took was, what if you could incentivize anyone to become a network provider and let them earn rewards? And the idea is that once you have this community helping you build this network, the network can be built much quicker, and the coverage that you're providing is much more robust because you aren't relying on a single company, you're relying on this community. And so the network is not really owned by a single entity, rather than to all the folks who are participating in providing that coverage. And so the incentive that we have provided is the ability to earn a cryptocurrency called HNT. So you're building this network, you've got an idea to incentivize a community. So here is the hardware piece of it, the Helium hotspot. And we call it the heart of the network. There's two key functions that it's providing. One is obviously to provide that wireless coverage across many square miles. And then the other is tied to that incentive or reward system and the ability to mine these tokens based on the work that the hotspot is providing. So providing coverage, transferring data rewards the hotspot owners. So you've got the hardware. Now there's something that we call LongFi, which is a combination of LoRaWAN wireless protocol with the Helium blockchain. So the Helium blockchain is essential to create this decentralized system. Not only do you get the cryptocurrency aspect out of it, but you get other features as well. So because we are completely LoRaWAN compatible, any LoRaWAN device can start transferring data on the network. No firmware updates needed, just onboard with console, and you can see packets flowing. So LongFi is LoRaWAN compatible. Also, we get device roaming. So if you had a sensor that was located in Alaska and then it found its way to Florida, as soon as there's coverage around for this sensor device, you can send data just anywhere there's coverage available. No authentication needed. The device is already trusted because it's been onboarded. The ability to do micropayment transactions. So on the coverage side, the folks who are participating in the community that's building coverage, they are earning HNT. the folks who are, or companies that are using the network, they need to use something called data credits. And data credits you can think of as kind of like mobile minutes for a prepaid cell plan, only instead of voice data, it's actual packet data. And all these transactions need to be verified, trusted, make sure that we're avoiding double spend issues, and we are able to do that. The system, rather, is able to do that using blockchain. Another really interesting feature is that any connection event that happens on the network becomes a permanent record, or the term used in blockchain is immutable. And this is quite unique to our network, providing that cryptographic proof of time and location for these events. So how are we doing? We started nationwide shipping October last year. We've already seen sales to over 1,000 cities, including in regions like the US, Canada, European Union, and the UK. This is what the coverage map looks like as of a couple days ago. I think last time I checked, there was over 7,000 hotspots on the network providing coverage. So when we think about, why Helium, companies really want to focus on solving customer problems, building applications, and not have to worry about either network building. So we, in a very short time, we have been able to build the largest public IoT network in the US. Because of our unique approach, we're able to keep the connectivity costs down very low. As an example, if you had a tracker that was sending data every 5 minutes for the entire year, at the end of the year, the cost would be a little over $1 for connectivity. So this network is optimized for long range and long battery life, the ability to leverage low-cost off-the-shelf trackers, because we are, as we mentioned, compatible with LoRaWAN. And that blockchain core technology is providing that feature to create this ledger, which includes all the location and time for trackers that send data on the network. So here's just a number of companies that are working with us for their network, IoT network needs. We are obviously going to be talking about asset tracking today, but there's different use cases for COVID-19 asset contact tracing, water leak detection and prevention, environmental monitoring for artifacts and artwork, smart agriculture, a number of very different industries, micromobility. We have a promo that is wrapping up at the end of this month. If you're interested, go to helium.com/summer promo. Basically, sign up with Helium, and you can talk to sales about getting free $100 in connectivity data credits. That works out to be about 10 million messages that devices can send. So if you want to get started, Helium Console is free to use. You can sign up, get an account, start onboarding devices, and just familiarizing yourself with it. And before I hand it over to Digital Matter, we did this IoT asset tracking report because we found that asset tracking is really one of those key use cases that this network, this type of network is really well suited to address. Some of the findings that we saw from over 100 participants, top uses, companies trying to solve their own internal use cases, or partners or resellers building solutions and then selling them to commercial customers. The #1 business driver for this asset tracking, as you can imagine, protecting against loss and theft. Operational efficiency, I believe, was the second one. And for those participants who are not using any existing connectivity but are interested in asset tracking, cost was the number one reason for them to hold off. So if you want to get the full report, you can go to helium.com/tracking. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Matthew and Sean.
Thank you so much, Dale. Hi again, everyone. It's really exciting to see how far your deployment's gone since October of 2019. That's very exciting to see growth like that. It's also exciting to be a partner and be part of that as well. So welcome again, everyone. Again, my name is Matthew. I represent Digital Matter for North America. To give you a little bit of background on our company, I'll give you a little bit of overview on us, who we are, have a look at some of the devices that we make. We'll do a short demo on our platform, Telematics Guru, and then we'll go through a short demo on how to get our devices online using the Helium hotspot onto our Telematics Guru platform. So that's how we're going to be spending the next the rest of the webinar. Del, did we hit off for the next slide there? A little bit of info on Digital Matter. We're a global IoT firm. We've been around for over 20 years in the telematics and the IoT space. We all started in South Africa many years ago, but we are now headquartered in Australia. We have offices in South Africa still. USA, we're based in Atlanta, and we're in the process of opening up a new office in Amsterdam to look after Europe. We design, manufacture, and distribute all of our own hardware. Our factory still sits in South Africa, so everything's manufactured there. And our go-to-market route is through a reseller channel and enterprise IoT partners. We have a white-labeled software platform that we call Telematics Guru, where you'll be able to view and report your asset or your tracking device. For companies and individuals that have their own platforms or a preferred platform to use, we've got all the integration documents available and engineering staff to assist you integrating the devices into your platform. So we could either offer you the device and the platform, or you could just take the device and use a different platform. In terms of staff around the world, we have a really large team of engineers that focus heavily on research and development, which keeps us ahead of the tech curve to produce new devices integrated with new networks like Helium to meet the ever-changing need the market throws our way. In terms of where our devices get used in various applications, Del, can we kick off the next slide? Applications and verticals. Basically, whatever your business needs to track, we've got you covered with a range of battery-powered tracking devices. And our main targets are non-powered and high-value assets, and mainly construction industry, so bobcats, scissor lifts, and so on, trailers, any cool toys that you have, ATVs, boats, an RV, a bicycle, a scooter. We've got pets that are tracked. We track a whole bunch of livestock with reindeer and cows and rhinos and so on. So basically, you name it, anything that is of value to you, we can put a tracking device onto. I wanted to give you, we're ready for the next slide, to give you a little bit of an overview of our product line. This is our LoRaWAN product line. We've got devices for any application. All of these devices are IP67, so they are all waterproof, dustproof, rugged enough to withstand the weather and so on. But starting from the top left on the range, we start out with the Guppy tag. That's our smallest asset tag. It does not have a GPS, so it's not going to give you accurate location. It's going to get its location through the network. So you're just going to know that your asset is on the property, but not exactly where it is. The Guppy is about the size of your thumb. It takes 2 AAA batteries, and off of that, you could get up to 5 years on a set of batteries. The batteries are all user replaceable, Energizer Lithium Ultimate, so you can buy them off Amazon or at a grocery store and replace them yourself. The use case for the Guppy is less expensive equipment. So it could be a leaf blower or a lawnmower rather than a bobcat, where you just want to know that we have stock of our pallets or our leaf blowers on the property rather than wanting to know where everything is exactly. The next one up on the list there is the Yabby, and that is proportionately larger. It's double the size. So if you put two thumbs together, that's the size of the Yabby unit. That's our smallest unit that has a GPS. And that's great for smaller equipment. It fits really nicely onto a bike. It fits really nicely onto livestock. It takes three AAA batteries, and you are good for about 3 years on a set of batteries for battery life. The biggest one there on the far right is the Oyster, and that's our flagship product. Again, it has a GPS. It's a little bit smaller than your hand, and it takes 3 AA batteries, but you'll be good for up to 5 years on a set of batteries there. Our main industries that use the Oyster are for construction equipment, trailers, electric scooters, electric bikes, normal bicycles. So anything where you're able to conceal something that size. The next one down on the bottom left, the sensor node, is quite a fun one. It's sort of like the Oyster, but now you're able to add an external sensor to it. So an example here would be adding an external temperature and humidity sensor to that. And that would give you a battery-powered cold chain solution. So you could slap the sensor node onto the side of a pallet. The external temperature humidity sensor goes inside the pallet to measure the temperature and the humidity of the lettuce in transit, as an example. This sensor node device does have an option to be wired in as well. So if your trailer has got option for power, then we can draw power. Otherwise, we use a set of batteries again. This device as well takes 3 AA batteries and is about the size of your hand as well. The last one on the list there is a wired device called the G62. And that's like a traditional fleet tracker unit that you or I would have had in our vehicles at some stage. It's wired into the vehicle. There's functions such as for fleet management, such as driver identification, immobilizing the vehicles. So it's good for trucks and buses and bobcats and hardy equipment that has a power source that could be driving around a construction site, for example. So if we move on to the next slide, we have the devices. We have a Telematics Guru platform, asset tracking platform to view them on. Helium has got the People's Network. So we wanted to spend a little bit of time quickly here just showing you how easy it is to get all of this online. And so the first thing that would have happened is you would sign up for a Helium console account, and that you would do when you receive your hotspot in the mail. When we got ours, Sean and I spent about 10 minutes getting ours set up, and it was done. So it's really quick and simple to get online. We're just going to swap and share a different screen for you quickly so we can show you what we're doing. But we're going to show you the Helium console and how to add a device to that and get it across talking and sending data to Telematics Guru. So give us a sec while we get the screen up there. There we go, onto the Helium console. So once the console is open, we're going to go to add a new device. We need to give it a name, so we can call it test device. There we go. Once we've given the device a name, we need to choose the integration type. So there are a couple of options there, but our platform, Telematics Guru, uses the HTTP integration. So we're going to click on HTTP. We're going to add a label to this, and the label just pairs the device with the integration type that we've chosen. Once we've got that, once it's set up on the Helium side, we go onto Telematics Guru and we create the asset. So this is the landing page of Telematics Guru. I mentioned a little bit earlier, it was a white labeled platform. So we've white labeled it, and you can see the Helium logo on the top left corner. And then the URL has been rebranded as well. We've just called it Helium Demo for today, but you could have that branded as yourcompany.telematics.guru with your logo for when you log in, and it could be rebranded with a new URL for when your client logs in as well. In terms of setting up a new asset, we're going to click on Create Asset. We need to give it a name. We could give it asset a description. We could select the type of asset it is. Is it a boat, a cow, a trailer? If it's not something from the list, we can create anything new that we want. It's quite helpful at times to add a department to it. So we could add it to a sales department, finance department. We can link it to various projects. It just helps us get better and more accurate reporting on a device at the end of the day. Once we've set up the asset, we're going to go into admin, and we're going to set up the way that we want the device to behave. And we do this through the LoRaWAN downlink. So everything here that you need for the device, all parameter changes, the way that you want it to send data and so on, is all done over the air through this downlink. So the first one that's set at 1 day at this stage. So if a device does not move, because it's a battery powered device, we want those devices to sleep as much as possible. So if it hasn't moved, we're going to set a threshold there to say, connect to me once a day if the device has not moved, just so that I know you're alive and still there. Time between fix attempts when you're in trip. So when we start driving around the town, how often do you want us to send a location and update this information? We can choose from a couple of seconds to minutes. Everything is completely customizable. There are other alerts and so on that you can set up. We can set up alerts for harsh braking, for speeding, accelerating, and things like that. We can set up geofences and get alerts for when a device enters a geofenced area or exits a geofenced area. And once we've set up the way we want this device to perform, we can go onto a live view and we can see it on a map. So there you can see I've got 2 devices that we've been playing around with for this demo. The Oyster I've got here with me, the Yabby is across the street in the car, so you can see the little difference there. But if we go into the history of that, you can see the route that we've taken. We took it for a drive on Tuesday, just around town, and you can see all of the Helium hotspots that it's picked up along the way there. So you'll be able to see the address of where the hotspot that it's picked up from. You'll be able to see the speed that we were driving. Obviously stuck in a lot of Atlanta traffic and spent most of the trip stationary. And then there's quite a large reporting deck as well. I'm not going to go through all of the reports, but we came out of the fleet management space, so there's a myriad of reports. If there's not one that you want there, you've got options to custom make reports and so on. So that's just a quick overview of Digital Matter, of our devices and platform, and this exciting new partnership that we have with Helium. And as biased as we are, this LoRaWAN asset tracking solution with Helium doesn't get much easier than this to get something online. So we're really excited to share this with everyone. That's it from Digital Matter side. Thank you everyone for your time. I think there might be a couple of questions that have come through in the chat box, so we can start addressing those now. But thank you, everyone.
Yeah, definitely. There was some other questions prior to the chat as well, Sean. Maybe I'll just, this is kind of a fun one. You know, you mentioned some of the use cases that you guys have seen for tracking assets, but is there any unexpected things that you guys have seen that people wanted to track that you were really surprised at?
Well, it's always a surprise when someone asks that they want to put a tracking device in their spouse or partner's car. We've tracked dogs, we've tracked beavers, which I thought was perhaps a little bit cruel, but they dive into the water, they come out of the water, so we track beavers. Anything. I've got one in my daughter's school bag, so there's a whole lot of weird and wonderful things that you can track with the devices. As long as you pick the right one to fit into the spot, you're good to go.
Okay. I know a question is that you probably get quite a bit. What about the range? Like what kind of range can you get with these trackers?
So that's always a good question, because I like to start with how long is a piece of string. So in a perfect world where we've got perfect line of sight to the sky for GPS and trees and buildings around for our hotspot, you could probably get 5 to 10 miles with the device. On the GPS side, probably within 10 or 20 meters. So they get pretty accurate, and you've got quite a long range as well. we track a lot of boats at harbors and yachts and so on. And just because the ocean's flat, we get quite a number of miles out to sea with some of the boats and the yachts.
Nice. You also mentioned that I think it was your Oyster that you can get 5 years of battery life. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Wow.
So that, depending on how often it updates, you could get 5 or 6 years if you're getting an update a day. If you're using it more often and it's the tracker in your car and you're getting an update every hour, you're probably good for about 2 years on that.
Right. Okay.
But they all use the replaceable batteries as well. So they all energize a lithium ultimate and a mix of AA's and AAA's. We can set up battery alerts for when batteries go flat, or either a battery voltage or a percentage or a time. So you shouldn't get caught with flat batteries and not knowing where your device is at any stage.
Okay. So what about if somebody wants to sign up for an account with Telematics Guru? What's the process there? So
our route to market is through resellers and IoT partners. So we don't sell direct. If anyone is wanting a device for themselves, like, we can put you in contact with a reseller. If anyone's wanting to resell, you can speak to us directly, and we could set you up with the Telematics Guru accounts and accounts with us to get hold of devices and so on as well. So pricing doesn't come from us, that would come from a reseller.
Got it. Unless you were a reseller and then you would work directly with you guys.
Correct.
Yep. Okay. Some other questions. Do we need a separate LoRa gateway? What is the final methodology of data export to cloud? So I think from it, if you're in an area where there's coverage, you actually don't need to get a gateway at all. You can just start tracking. And the final methodology of data export to cloud. So that was the integration that Matthew and Sean showed. So in console, you set up an integration using HTTP, and then the data is going to appear in their Telematics Guru dashboard, or in any other, wherever you want the data to show up as well. What is the usual plus/minus error on location using GPS plus GLONASS out in the open? I don't know if Sean or Matthew, I'm not sure if I'm interpreting that question correctly.
So I think that's what Matthew was talking about, the position accuracy. The expectation, we expect it to be within 10 meters. That's in like kind of a perfect world. Practical accuracy is more like 20 to like 50. But we do expect to see it pretty well covered, and the GPS giving a good fix.
Right. Okay. Thanks. Question: how to use this in remote areas? Well, again, if there's question of coverage or not, if there's no coverage, then you would need to get a hotspot and provide coverage, and then you could just connect the trackers as needed.
Can I chime in there as well, John?
Sure.
The trackers all have flash memory on board as well, so you can still record. Sorry, that I'm incorrect with that.
No worries.
Sorry, not Laura.
No, it's all good. All good, Matthew. Another question for you guys. Can I use the system underground to track machines? They don't say how far underground, which I think is probably a factor, but I know you guys are using these in constructions and other type of use cases, so maybe.
Yeah, underground's difficult just because of the GPS signal.
Yeah. Okay.
So you'd know that it went underground, but you wouldn't know where to start looking once you were there.
Right. Yeah, and so that's similar to another question about it being device need to be exposed to the sky, I assume.
Preferably, yes.
Right.
Or at least next to a window where it's got view to the sky. So here's an interesting one. If the Oyster is
is at one location per day, how long would it last every 30? So the 5-year battery life that you mentioned, Matthew, for the Oyster, how long, like if it's
That'll be on
reporting like,
one update a day.
I see. All right.
Yeah, so that we just set to give us a heartbeat at 12 o'clock every evening, just so we know it's there until it gets started.
Got it. Hey, somebody reported in the chat, Matthew, I have used your device up to 2 miles. So there you go. You got a existing customer.
That's great.
If we have a client who has lots of assets on their site, do we put just one Helium device on site to upload the information? Well, so this is, I think it's, you would have digital matter trackers that you would put on each device that you wanted to track. And then depending on how large your site was and if there's existing coverage, that would determine whether you would need to deploy a hotspot and how many. So this is a question for you guys. Do you have a reseller in the UAE?
Yes, we do. We have plenty. We've got a really large presence in Europe.
Okay. So one question, how does the LoRaWAN device get the position? I think you mentioned the GPS mostly, correct?
Correct, yes.
Yeah, okay. Do the position samples gathered outside of LoRaWAN get stored and transmitted once in cover again?
Not if they're outside the LoRaWAN gateway. Our cellular devices have flash memory, but our LoRaWAN devices do not.
Got it. What about the add-on temp sensor? Do you make that as well?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Okay. This is a very specific question. Do you have a device that can integrate with the ignition device of yellow metal equipment so we know when they started? Not sure that covers asset tracking, but.
So our G62 devices have an ignition wire or digital input, so you can attach to it. And then when that line goes active, you can set up alerts to notify that that digital input is going live or not live. So that might be able to help with them.
Another question, and thanks everybody for participating and asking the questions. This is kind of one of the benefits you get from a live, from actually participating rather than seeing on demand. So really appreciate the participation. Can we use digital matter trackers and get the data out using Helium? So Helium is the connectivity, and it is sending the data from the tracker to whatever endpoint you set up, for example, the Telematics Guru dashboard. So I think the question is definitely yes, that's the Helium is providing that connectivity to make sure that you could do asset tracking with digital matter asset trackers. Does Telematics Guru show current/historical sensor values like temperature/RH from the sensor node?
Yeah, you can pull up that in the telemetry within Telematics Guru. And then also on the live page, you can click it and the pop-up window will show any mappings that you put to the device.
Nice. All right. So I have another question, Sean. So I know you guys mentioned that your go-to-market is through resellers. If somebody is a reseller, how do they contact you? What's the best way?
So the best way would probably honestly be contact Matthew. So on the slides that have his email, he's the best sales support for this. So we can go back to that slide. His phone number and email will be there. There's also a contact page on digitalmatter.com that you can fill out. So if you do have opportunities, let's say in the UAE, that would be handled with probably our South African office. So they would receive that information as well. So any of the contact pages on digitalmatter.com could do it too, because then that would give it to the Australian and South African office so we can locate you to the correct reseller if needed. And then if you're a reseller, we can reach out.
Okay, great. This is kind of a fun one. Have you guys ever experimented with solar cells on the devices or other solutions to get, you know, quote, infinite battery life?
No, we haven't.
Okay. All right. I think that doesn't seem like there's any other questions coming in from the group chat. Again, thanks a lot for everyone who's on the line and participating. Matthew, Sean, did you guys want to leave any parting thoughts or wrap up with anything?
No, we're just really excited with this partnership, and if we look historically at our business and the number of cellular devices that we've sold, LoRaWAN devices are going to overtake cellular in the upcoming years, without a doubt for me. So we're really excited with partnerships like this and deployments that you have, because it helps us to sell devices and just increases the reach for all of our resellers as well. So
Nice.
Thank you everyone for your time.
Yes, we are actually really thrilled to be working with Digital Matter. Obviously, they are a leader in this space. And, you know, kind of fun fact, even before our partnership, when we were looking at really solid trackers to test the network for our own internal testing, Digital Matter was far and away the best trackers that we use to run the network. So this is really exciting for us to be able to work with you guys and make some noise and big things happen. So really appreciate the partnership.
Awesome, thank you, Del.
All right, and with that, I think this is another uplink in the books. So again, thank you everyone. As we mentioned later, we will post this to our YouTube channel where you can find other episodes of Uplink. So thank you very much, everyone, and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, guys.